Hello there. Welcome to Ataya with Simi Saleh. I'm Simone, and today I'm going to give you a review on This Is Paris documentary, okay? So, I have been brewing, this is really good. So, what's in my cup, right? I have some tea, and what's in my cup is a little bit of espresso that I had left over from this morning, and some chai tea, yerba mate chai tea that has been brewing in the refrigerator for a few days. It's super good, super spicy. I added a bunch of ginger to the pot before I added the hot beverage. So let's get down. We're gonna talk about the This Is Paris documentary. I have so many thoughts about the documentary. It was amazing. It had 6.5 million views by like the third day, I think. I watched it like 2 days ago, and it was amazing. Um, as a millennial, I was one of those kids that was like a frenzy for all things pop culture. I was a teenager in the 2000s, so like everything that was pop culture influenced my life, my style, the way I talk. So that's hot. Paris was skinny and she was like cool and aloof, and I just loved her from the time I saw her. I eventually fell in love with Nicole Richie because she was half black, so she was more relatable to me. But I always followed Paris's career, and like I always kind of admired her from afar. So I was excited to see like where she was in her life at this point, and how she was grappling with like I guess the choices in my mind that she had made. But whew, we're gonna dig in because I learned so much, and a lot of the themes that a lot of the themes that intertwined in this documentary are kind of the premise of my show. Like things I want to talk about, cycles, and how things that seem minuscule to others can be like life changing, or little t, how something that can be called a little t trauma can really turn out to be a big T trauma in someone's life. So let's just dig into the initial thoughts of the documentary. I love seeing all facets of her life, from her family to just the way she lives, the way she actually manages herself in her home. I remember watching a cooking video of hers not too long ago on YouTube. She was cooking lasagna, and I was like, this girl is a little like neurotic. Like she's a little all over the place and quirky, and I like it. Like I like it because I'm a little like that myself. And then it turns out Miss Paris Hilton is an Aquarius gang. She's a star. She's a star sign. So she's an Aquarius. So of course that's why she's so quirky. Like she's really one of a kind. And I'm not one that like is goes all up for the elite or goes all up for like wealthy white women, like not that I'm against them or anything, but like come on. So but I think that me and Paris are kindred spirits, and this is going to be weird, but we are. Like, I grew up in the bottom in Harlem, in New York, and she grew up, top of the top of the financial pyramid, because, I'm rich at heart, baby. Anyway, so some of the things I loved about Paris that I initially noticed was that she loved animals. Anyone who's an animal lover like that, especially since childhood, they're special, They they often have a softer heart and a sensitive side that they don't really show other people. And people like that normally trust children and babies and animals because you know that they're pure at heart. So you can be your pure at heart self with them. Whereas adult humans and other peers can be somewhat manipulative, abusive without even knowing it sometimes. So I also noticed she was a free spirit, and she was really creative. So she liked the scrapbook. You can tell by the things she picks the items that she picks to express her brand are very bright, visually eye-catching, just stunning visuals, right? She makes everything visually like euphoric. That's like a sign of a deep creative, and she works hard. She sacrificed a lot and she works hard, but I also think that she's pouring a lot of her trauma and a lot of her angst into her work. And you can tell that she is suffering from some sort of anxiety, complex PTSD. And they actually note these things in the documentary. But I think that where she kind of didn't take us all the way home, and it was already long, was kind of explaining those terms and those disorders that come about as a result of child abuse, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, or abuse in general, or any kind of childhood trauma, or something that they call ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. So kind of to dig into her childhood, they grew up wealthy as a part of the Hilton family conglomerate. But one thing her mother noted was that while her mother came from a working background and was a child star who basically fed the family, her dad and his two siblings were left out of an 8-child inheritance. So I doubt they didn't get nothing. But what the mom was saying was that they didn't get as much as the other siblings, and they had to work. So I think that was one thing that influenced Paris, was the fact that she always saw a working woman around her. Her family worked, and they didn't totally rely on their family's wealth. Now I'm giving her off good. The girl was rich, like, you know. But they made a point to show that they didn't have the same, I guess, privileges as the older Hiltons, who are basically quiet and silent. We don't hear about them at all. So that's what we know about Paris and her childhood, right? And then it turns out that she's this California girl living her life, getting a lot of attention. Her mom is a child star, so she has actress friends, and there was a lot of attention on her looks, and she was always in front of a camera because her dad documented their life, similar to Kim Kardashian's dad always documenting her life. It's interesting what we prime our kids for, and we don't even realize it, you know, just feeding our own little interests and desires. It's interesting what we prime our kids for. So her dad primed her for the life behind the camera, and her mom, it seems, primed them for a life of business. She primed her daughter to be a strong woman. Like, Paris is strong, and you could tell she gets that fortitude from her mom. Her mom is intense, and she's strong-willed, so you could tell that's why she was making those decisions to be like, listen, her ass is going to boarding school. I'm not doing this with her. It's going to hurt me, but we're going to maintain this family name because we're already the black sheep of the family, which takes me to my next point. I think that Paris herself and her mom and her dad, they were carrying the shame of being like black sheeps. Not that they were totally ousted from their family, but I think that, I know from experience, not getting the same things as people whom you are related to, you wonder if there's something wrong with you. Why am I getting less? Why am I treated differently? And you can tell that, like, their family was working really hard to show that they belonged with the elite, and they deserved to have money, and they deserved to have nice things. And her mom always tried to keep up rigid expectations and rigid facades that showed that they belonged, and they were Hiltons, and they were cream of the crop. And I think that took a big toll on a person like Paris Hilton, who was a creative girl. She's an Aquarius. She's a free spirit. She loves animals. She's tomboyish. She just wanted to be free. So moving her to New York in her, like, most times of figuring her identity out, away from her friends, her family, everything she knew, when you're really just trying to figure yourself out at 12, 13, 14, 15, and taking her to a place like New York where independence is heavy and she has clout and money, and you're placing her in this, like, world where the elite is different from Los Angeles. The elite is very button up and debutante, and it's very mannerable and spin school, and it's very, you know, uptown, Lower East Side. New York is a whole new world. It's a whole different world, and I don't think people understand how rigid and robotic it can be. And for someone like Paris, it seemed like it was too much for her. So she rebelled. Obviously, she rebelled. But I think that her family's dismissiveness and desire to be a part took away their ability to see her for who she was and give her the emotional supports that she needed. She probably should have been sent to live with her grandparents out in California. I think she would have stayed. I think she would have done better. But I also think that the family was trying to hide the fact that they were going through this during those times. You know, like, when you really think about it, you didn't see too many children of 1%ers doing wild things, you know. She was really hanging out with a Hollywood crowd, people who were probably not as high class as the elite people that her family was around. When you see her sister, who was probably the golden child, she's married to a Rothschild, and she's, like, mean to her sister, and she's dismissive about her feelings, calling her anxiety dramatic or drama, when it's like, when you have anxiety, it really feels like waves of, like, fight or flight all the time. This is why she can't sleep. I just wish the people around her could really see the pain that she is in, and could see that she really just needs love and support. And she needs to know that like who she is enough, and who she is like really important to the family. And I think she wants to prove that inside, by becoming a billionaire and reaching these milestones that other people in her family probably said she couldn't reach. Other people in her family probably haven't reached outside of her family's money or outside of her grandfather's brand, you know? So I think Paris feels like she has a lot to prove because of her youth. But I wish people could see the pattern. I hope people see clearly the pattern that she's outlining for us to see, and don't look at all of the little highlights, the hot takes that could be taken into the media. She really outlined a pattern of abuse, a pattern of trauma that has extended itself in her life and manifested in her life as complex PTSD. And it's important that we really discuss how this is affecting people all around America. Not just, and we try to not give people grace that have privilege like money and white skin and blonde hair, but anybody can be abused and can be fragmented and fractured and turn into a different person to survive, or have incredibly high ideals that make them feel like that's what's going to make them happy or perfect or whole or loved by their family. And it's something that we're seeing played out on social media and in the world with our excessive consumption of self, images of self, images of others, and comparison. And she said that she contributed to this whole world of like selfieism and self-documentation. And we teeter on a fine line of mania, and excessive narcissism, and just also abuse, self-abuse, continually ingesting these images that don't really do us any good, our psyches any good. They're not real, you know? A lot of these people are miserable and lonely. Look at Paris, she has everything. And she's so lonely. She's running into these cycles of abusive relationships. She doesn't know who she is. She doesn't even love herself. Well, she might love herself because I think she loves her wealth. But I don't know if she even knows who she is. You could see a moment in the documentary where she cracked when she was talking to the people that she was with when she was 15 years old, when she was at Provo. And she kind of went upstairs, and that was what she was able to say, like, wow, like, I don't even know how I got where I am. And you have to watch it for yourself. I don't want to like put words in her mouth. But you could see the self that she was projecting and the self that she's keeping inside. You could see that like crack, right? So it's like she's trying to put it together, but she's like, oh my God, like who am I? Which is going to come first? The persona, the self, the persona is cracked. Oh, this is so dramatic. But like, that's the only way I could kind of explain it. I don't want to ramble on too long about this documentary. I don't want to be talking for 15 minutes, but it was great. I give it a 2 thumbs up. I think that if you can look past the glamour, the drama, and the vapidness, I hope that you can see that she's addressing some real life American issues of abuse, narcissism, reaching dreams, rigid expectations, perfectionism, and classism in America. So that was all over, but you know, that's how we do it, Ataya. In the future, we'll have people talking with me. And in the future, I'll drink more tea. But we're going to talk and we chat it up. Thank you. Thank you for coming, and grab yourself a cup of tea.